And I guess we'll start there with our first segment talking about the effects of a Derrick Henry being injured, which I thought was impossible. Turns out it's not.
We had talked about it before. We thought, man, if there's one thing we know for sure, at least Derrick Henry won't get hurt.
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
And it happened this week.
And it happened. Apparently he broke a bone and came back into the game and played through the entire game.
Yeah, like it was nothing.
Like it was nothing.
And then they're like, hey, remember that foot injury that you had? Yeah, your bone was broken, so we might need to fix it for you.
I mean, he didn't do great that week. It kind of looked like he had a broken bone, but he played the entire game.
Yeah.
So it's
he's a beast. He'll be back.
He's a beast. There's a 6 to 10 week timetable on his return, and I feel like it's going to be 6 weeks because it's freaking Derrick Henry.
Unfortunately, 6 weeks from now pretty much means no more fantasy Derrick Henry. But
that's right. That's week 15 from this week.
Yeah,
so
like best case scenario, you get him
for the playoffs and hope that he's feeling pretty good.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about that, Josiah. Derrick Henry. What are the effects of that? Like who? So we got what's McNichols? Which was it? Jeremy McNichols? What's his first name?
Yeah. So I mean, the running backs behind him, Jeremy McNichols. Yep. He's gonna be a tough guy to figure out because it seems like they don't really like him between the tackles.
He's mainly a passing down back.
He's the total opposite type of running back to Derrick Henry.
Right.
So not really a good fill-in, right? But, I mean, I think with Derrick Henry going down, Tennessee's going to change the way they play their offense a little bit. They're going to throw the ball a lot more.
Right, so you think, And so
McNichols will be in a little bit more. I think he'll be relevant. I think he'll be worth starting at a flex in a PPR league, something like that. But they also went and signed Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson. They signed him to the practice squad, which they were going to probably immediately put him on the active roster.
Yeah, I'm sure that. I mean, he's a veteran player. He won't have a hard time picking up the playbook. He's going to be the guy that gets the goal line touches.
And Tennessee gets in the goal line every single week. It's like
they're a good offense. They're still going to move the ball.
Which is part of the reason why Derrick Henry is as good as he is. I mean, he's good at stiff arming people and continuing the yards, but also they get in a lot of opportunities where it's a great opportunity for Derrick Henry to score a touchdown.
Right.
So if they keep doing that, Adrian Peterson seems like a pretty good waiver wire pickup this week.
He could move into a running back 2 position pretty quickly, just filling in for
the king
Henry's
of running
spot.
backs.
When you're the number 1 running back on a team as good as Tennessee, you're going to be a good asset.
Right.
So, I mean, I think there's potential for him to be a pretty good player going forward. He's definitely worth taking a look at if you're trying to add a running back this week, I think.
So who do you like better? Do you like McNichols or Adrian Peterson?
Man, it's hard to say. I think Peterson's upside is better, so I would rather take a chance on Adrian Peterson. Just because if he comes in and he looks pretty good, which Adrian Peterson's never had a problem with looking athletic and being athletic. So if he comes in and looks like he's in shape, like I bet he is, he might fill in and do 70% of Derrick Henry right away.
How old is Adrian Peterson now? He's like 35 or something.
I bet he's at least 35, maybe 36.
He's like the Tom Brady of
He's been around
backs.
a while, but he's always been known to be in amazing shape all the time, so I wouldn't doubt to see him come in and still be great.
I feel like I'm not very excited about McNichols, honestly. I feel like they're the reason why they signed Adrian Peterson was because they're looking for someone to fill the void of Derrick Henry, and McNichols wasn't going to fill that. So
yeah, that's absolutely right.
But if they become more of a passing team, then McNichols is interesting because he's the dude that catches the ball whenever they are like, yeah, let's give Derrick Henry some rest.
Right. I think he will be involved enough that he's worth starting at your flex on some weeks if you need him.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest benefactor of this scenario is Ryan Tannehill, because Tannehill, he's been pretty good this year, but fantasy-wise hasn't had any great games. Mm-hmm. But that's just because all his touchdowns get vultured by Derrick Henry, and that's not going to be the game plan anymore. They're not going to rely on Adrian Peterson to do Derrick Henry things.
No.
He'll fall into the red zone sometimes and fall into the end zone for a touchdown, and he'll be a pretty good player probably. But Ryan Tannehill is going to benefit from getting the touchdowns he has not been getting.
Do you think that I know that A.J. Brown has had 2 pretty good weeks the last 2 weeks. Do you think this benefits him at all? Do you think there's going to be more so Derrick Henry, he gets like 26 to 28 attempts at running every single week.
Yeah.
And we don't expect Adrian Peterson to do that, right? So there's going to be
they're
more
not going to
passing
run that
attempts.
ball that much anymore.
There's going to have more passing attempts. So how does this affect A.J. Brown?
I don't think the effect on A.J. Brown is very significant. I mean, maybe he gets an extra target or two per game.
So what, does the trickle down on their wide receivers, do they get more?
Well, I mean, Ryan Tannehill is always a guy who just spreads the ball around a lot. And A.J. Brown gets his because he's the best receiver by a lot on his team, and he still will. Maybe it makes him a little bit safer so he doesn't have any more bust games. But Tannehill's just going to spread the ball around a lot. When they get into the red zone, they'll throw it to their third-string tight end or their fullback. Like, who knows? Like, they get creative. So I don't think it means too much for any other pass catchers. But for Ryan Tannehill in general, I think it means a lot.
So I'm trying to pull this up. A.J. Brown's targets the last few weeks are last week, this week currently 11, and then the week before that was 9.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to go up a little bit.
It might go up a little bit. But
so like
they
we're
also
looking
might
at
be forced targets where some of them end up being bad passes too, just because he's getting force-fed the ball a little bit. The thing is, he's scoring 25 points a week the last 3 weeks, and I don't think that's going to go up a lot.
the last 2 weeks. But he's had at least 9 targets the last 3 weeks, and I feel like that's just it's going to increase a little bit.
Maybe Julio gets healthy and he benefits from it. Who knows?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Julio Jones possibly coming back from injury, and then I feel like that does add value to Julio Jones for sure.
I think with Henry going down, we know for sure A.J. Brown is the top 5 to 8 wide receiver, right? He's in that range.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think this locks Ryan Tannehill in as like around a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to add value to him, and it's going to add value to the current wide receivers to some extent.
Like, I wouldn't go pick up any of the other wide receivers, though. I wouldn't trust any of them for that.
Right.
Just because none of them are good enough.
No, yeah. So it's basically
he's just going to spread the ball around a lot, and it's going to be more Tannehill touchdowns.
It's a sit and see how the running back situation pans out, but it adds a little value to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones.
Well, real quick, what's your thoughts dynasty terms for Derrick Henry?
Dynasty terms?
I know you own him in a dynasty league. What's your move there?
I feel like he's going to come back and he's going to be a beast. I feel like if you're in a dynasty league and someone's trying to sell you short, don't do it because.
But he's like 29 years old, right? So next year he's going to be 30 years old, coming off an injury.
I don't think he's 29 years old. I think
you're not worried at all.
I'm not worried about him. It's Derrick freaking. He just played a game, a whole game with a broken bone in his foot.
So he's 27.
He's 27.
He'll
That's
be
like 2 years.
year.
2 years at least. Still good. Still solid Derrick Henry. Yeah.
Maybe 2 years.
2 years. No, I don't. If you're in a dynasty league, I wouldn't sell yourself short. Don't go for, unless you're about to win. If you're about to win, if like you're sitting, go for some assets, like a couple, because long term or next 2 years at least, I feel like he's a
So
beast.
in a dynasty league, you think he's still a top 5 guy, running back wise?
Yeah. I wouldn't sell him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sell yourself short.